Welcome back to the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TB, and I'm with my co-host, my guy. He earned the nickname, the Riz God. JD. What's up?
Yo, what's good, bro? How was your research coming along this week?
Honestly, really enjoyed watching this group of running backs. Not gonna lie. Started working on next week's. Don't want to give too much away, but we're getting two defensive positions. Ooh, yeah.
I would say they're
Excited to watch.
similar,
Yeah,
depending.
yeah. So I've enjoyed watching those dudes too. Now, now that we're getting into running backs and getting prepped for next week. But yeah, I really actually loved watching the running backs this week. I don't know how you felt, but there was like some real eye-opening plays on film.
Yeah, no, when I was looking at it earlier, it's definitely crazy how like these guys you could tell off the bat like who you would think they like size up with or whatever, their comp. And last week I was sitting there like I don't even know if I could see anyone who looks like this guy. And all it takes
Yeah,
is a few plays and it's like I got him locked in.
yeah. I think it's interesting when you're grading running backs, trying to just grade them and not think about where they're going to be drafted, but then
Yeah.
knowing after the fact that you may love a guy, but just because you love a guy doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be drafted high
Yeah.
because of there's such a devaluation of the position at this point. So it's kind of a weird thing. Like with all these other position groups, we're talking about guys, and like your favorite guy is like a surefire, first round
First
pick, top
rounder, yeah.
15. And then you look at running backs, and you're like, by the time you get to like, the best guy might be a first rounder, best guy's borderline, and then you get to the third guy, and you're like, all right, basically all the mocks have this guy going in like round 3. And you're like, man, I
Yeah.
really like this guy. He's going to be a third rounder. So
Mhm.
I do think this year, even with running backs not being as valuable as they were 15 years ago, I think this is a good year to draft a running back because I think there's a lot of guys who are pretty good players that will go in rounds 3, 4, 5 that you
Make
can
some
get
noise.
legitimate. Yeah, you can get some
Yeah.
legitimate production from them. You're not going to be drafting scrubs, that's for sure. So, Joe, you ready to get into this thing?
Yeah, let's get it. Let's have you pull it up real quick. And as you
Uh,
you guys may notice, I added a new picture of myself on my other name. It's kind of funny to me. You can enjoy the picture of it. Half my face from the
young
past.
Joe, young Joe. Um, all right. So, as we said earlier, today we're back to offense. Looking at the running backs. Joe, who's the first guy we're looking at?
So the first guy we're looking at is Tank Bigsby out of Auburn. He's 6 foot, 213. He played 3 years, so he's a junior. Let's see, 35 games played. Total rushing yards, he's got 2,900. Total of 25 touchdowns over those 3 years. He averaged 5.4 yards a carry. Also had 448 yards receiving and then no receiving touchdowns.
So Tank, first of all, when you watch him, lives up to the name. That's the first thing I would say. Lives up to the nickname and or became his name, Tank. He's a massive human being. I mean, 6 foot 215,
Yeah.
but then you see the way he runs at 6 foot 215, and it's just so impressive. So that was the first thing I noticed when I watched him. Just like the combination of size, speed, strength. Like I could have
Mhm.
listed those three things separately as their own strengths, but just the actual makeup of him as an athlete. When you take, all right, 6 foot 215, he's not too tall where he's this huge target, but he's tall, he's big,
Yeah,
he's
especially
big
out the
for six.
backfield.
Yeah, 6 foot is big for a running back, man. Um, to be a 215-pound back, but then still have the speed. And just in general, Joe, what were his combine numbers? Because I know he's a freaky athlete.
Yeah, so his 40 time was 4.56. Not the fastest compared to some of these other dudes, but he
Hmm.
had a vertical of 32.5 inches. broad jump of almost 10 feet. It was 9 feet 11 inches.
Yeah, I mean, to be 215 running a 4.5, that's still, while it's not like elite, if you watch his game tape, which we're going to in a second here,
Yeah.
um, it's good enough. I'll tell you that. He's a big back who can break tackles, but he still has burst in the open field. He still on tape looks like he has that extra gear. It
I
may
will
not
say,
be. Go ahead, Joe.
the 40 time doesn't really matter as much as backs because you're not expecting them to run 40 yards every play. That's not how it all plays out. So,
True that.
granted, you would like them to be fast, but at the end of the day, they're not running down the field as much like that.
Yeah, and really for them, it's that 10-yard split. Like
Yeah.
what's their burst look like? And I will tell you, Tank has burst, man. So he has that extra gear. While he may not be the 4.3 guy, his 4.5 gets it done. So here's a clip of him against Ole Miss. I believe this was actually 2 years ago. So they're just going to run essentially zone, right? And it breaks one tackle, the speed and burst in the open field, all of it, right? The size and the strength to break that tackle, but then the speed to make it happen afterwards, right?
Yeah.
That burst, boom, cut back, strength, get through an arm tackle and score. Just watching him, one more time here, he he is an ideal blend of all those things that you want at the running back position. It's part of what makes him a great zone downhill running back. The next thing that I noticed when I looked at him really was his vision. You could kind of see it on that play, but when Auburn ran a lot of wide zone stuff, especially that stretch wide zone, he showed he was really patient, and he was patient enough to kind of crease it. And by crease it, we mean press the hole, press the hole, press the hole, keep going one way until you
And
really
cut back.
feel it open, and then hit the lane. Whether it's the cutback or cut right in front of you, whatever it is, right? He knows what his aiming point is. He sees who he's looking at in his vision, and he knows that exact moment when to crease it and hit it. And I just think he's a really good zone running back. If you watch, there's some clips here of him at Auburn. Here they are running that zone look, that wide zone look, and you can just see I cut right, and he can get all the way backside. There's not a lot of backs who can get all the way backside like that, who have that kind of vision. I mean, the cuts themselves are a great display of athleticism, but the vision to see it and get all the way back there, I just thought was really impressive. One of the more impressive plays on film that I watched a back where he was able to find it, press that whole front side, and then crease it getting backside, cut, and get all the way across the field to score. Pretty impressive. The last thing you see with him is I think he runs with great balance. Balance is one of the more important yet least talked about things when it comes to
That's for
running
sure.
backs. And I'm not trying to hype my guy up, but Joe played a little running back in high school, right? And when that was one of the things that made Joe pretty good, is balance. And even Joey's older brother, Johnny, I've seen some clips of him, that balance, right? If you have great balance as a running back, then even when you get knocked one way or right, you get that kind of you get that where you're hit from the
For your
side or
offset.
whatever. Yeah, you can always catch yourself, right, and keep going and stay on your feet. Those guys who can just find a way to stay on their feet, and he just runs really good balance that help him make break tackles, make cuts in open space. He stays on his feet even when defenders are diving at his legs. So here's another really good clip of it. Him against Penn State this year. Um, that just like guys diving at his legs and he's staying up, right? Same thing here against Ole Miss. Same thing. He finds a way to stay on his feet, right?
Yeah.
He can cut back, he can make that play in the open space. I just think there's a lot of good clips of him here where he does such a good job of staying on his feet, staying balanced, and not allowing defenders to just to take him out with like an arm tackle or a swipe at the leg. He just does a very good job of running with great patience, great vision, great balance, size, speed, strength. Overall, I think when you look at his profile, he's a guy who does almost everything really well. Not a huge receiving threat out of the backfield as you see with his production there, but other than that, he does a lot of everything. He does everything really well. I don't know that I'm necessarily sitting here telling you he's elite at any one thing. Maybe his vision. His vision is really, really good, but he's great. He's really good at everything. Very well balanced back that I think can do a lot for an offense. I think his comp for me, I was watching him, was Cam Akers. That's who he reminded me of. He's a little bigger than Cam, but similar in terms of great vision and patience, right? Loves to run that zone and has pretty good balance at the point of attack. So, like, I was thinking of this game he had against the Patriots his rookie year, where Cam he was really good in that zone of finding holes, staying on balance, running through tacklers. There's a couple really good clips of it where he just stays on balance and he just keeps motoring ahead. Cam is not like elite at any one thing, but that vision is really, really good. He's able to see holes and he's good at everything else. And nowadays, with again, running backs not being valued as highly as they might once have been, that kind of production can take you a long way. Joe, did you see anything else with Tank Bigsby?
I think it's more geared towards what my comp was. But before I get into that, I will say your balance, talking about his balance, you always see him putting his arm down to try to get those extra yards, which plays into that factor. For me, my notes was that he was a shifty dude, as we see in the backfield. You talking about him being patient, he finds that hole and just like cuts up real quick. And another thing, at least from what I seen, was that I think he was a little bit slower to reach like his full speed potential. And for that I went with my comp being as like Derrick Henry, where it's like he
Okay.
needs those extra yards to get up to full speed, but once he's there, like he's the dog, he's gonna run over anyone.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
let's see, going over the years, I could give you his stats. So 2020, he had 138 attempts rushing, 834 yards, 5 touchdowns. See, 21, he had 223 carries, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. Last year, he had 179 attempts, 834 yards, and 10 touchdowns as well.
Yeah.
And then I had a standout game for him. It was them against Texas A&M. They won by 3. It was 13-10. He had 23 attempts, 121 yards, and a long of 39. No touchdowns in that game, though.
Yeah. I think I will say, watching him live and then on film, one thing I will agree with you on, I do think he's a back that gets better with volume.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
he's a back that you really want to give him
all those touches.
multiple touches. Yeah, I think because he gets better that way. I think both of our comps, Cam Akers and Derrick Henry, are both guys like that too. Like,
Mhm.
you notice Cam Akers was better in games with the Rams. He has been better in games with the Rams in his career when he's
Yeah,
been the guy getting the volume touches.
yeah,
He
most of them.
struggled. He struggled in games more so where he was getting his touches were a little more limited by other backs, right? Where he's only
Yeah,
getting 12 touches versus 22 touches. And
yeah,
Derrick Henry has always been a guy. He gets stronger as the game goes. If he's getting more touches, he's getting better. Um, so I do think from that standpoint, I agree with you. Tank is a guy he's going to be more successful if he's getting volume. Now the question is, does someone look at him and say, we feel like he's a guy we want to give volume touches to? That part I don't know yet. And it'll be interesting to see. I think for him, he's an intriguing addition for any offense in the league as a back who will be able to play on early downs right away. No question. Like he can play first and second down. I think he fits, obviously I said he fits really well in a zone scheme because of his vision and his balance. And then I also think it's going to
yep,
be imperative for him early that he's not put in passing situations too much right away. Where he's going to, and this is very similar to where Cam came in the league, struggles a little bit in pass protection, I think.
yeah, that's for
Um,
sure.
and, he's going to need to develop that part of his game to be able to play in more passing situations. He obviously is not adding a huge chunk of value in the receiving game. So for him, he's an early down back right now, a part of a committee. Now the crazy thing is that in the NFL, almost 90% of the teams are running a running back by committee anyway. So if that's what most teams are doing, I don't think that hurts him as much as it might have, again, 15 years ago, where it's actually okay if you're a guy who is going to be a part of committee, because that's most of the teams, that's what they're drafting anyway. So he can come in and be a team's first, second down back, runs a lot of zone. And then if you have a great third down back, then that can complement him. Then I think you feel really good about it. Right now, he's projected to go anywhere from the late second round through round 4. I think most drafts have him somewhere in round 3. Interestingly enough, a team who I think he would fit really well with, the Rams, just because they do run a lot of that wide zone. There's a reason why Cam Akers is a fit there, and I think Tank could be a fit there with Cam. Depending on how the Rams feel about Cam Akers moving forward, we saw some stuff last year in terms of the Rams maybe trading him. Then he came on late in the year, so we'll see what happens. If they're really considering giving Cam an extension or not, and if they're not, then maybe Tank Bigsby's a decent
Good
replacement.
replacement.
Yeah. Other teams you've got, the Panthers, the Bears, and the Falcons would all be teams that I think could fit, what they've got going on there. So it makes a lot of sense. So Joe, if you're looking at these teams that we've got, any of them stand out to you as a team you'd like to see Tank play for?
I would have to go with the Bears. I think
Ooh.
you pair him over there with Justin Fields. He could do some zone read, whatever you have it. They also had some back issues last year, getting hurt down the stretch, so he could fill in those spots. The Panthers, I believe, I don't know, what was his name? Or Freeman. Freeman, is he younger cat? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers, they're not necessarily settled at running back. I think they've got some guys there that they like. And again, Tank's probably, if you're looking at these teams, a lot of these teams are more scheme fit things than anything. Like, if you look at Frank Reich, I think he's a zone running scheme kind of guy, and he may come in and want to bring in his own running back. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what he wants to do.
But yeah, no, those are the two out of the 4. Obviously, you mentioned Cam being his comp, so it would make sense over there at the Rams as well.
Yeah, I think you said the Bears because of the orange and blue aesthetic, just keeping them in the orange and blue.
Make them look fast. Changes.
Who we got next?
Yeah, so next we're looking at Devin. I thought his last name was a Kane. I don't know. That makes sense to me.
A-Chain.
Yeah, but that's what everyone was saying. So I was like, all right, for sure. But yeah, he's out of Texas A&M. He sits at 5'9", 185. Also a junior. Played 3 years. He's got 30 games under his belt. Let's see, 2,376 yards total rushing for the man. 21 touchdowns. Average of 6.4 yards a carry. Let's see, 554 receiving yards with 5 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, A-Chain, man. Really like this dude on film. He was a guy who Texas A&M had an abysmal year this year, like a really tough year. But in terms of bright spots, he was the one. He was one of the ones, man. He had a couple really good games this year. I know, Joe, you're probably going to talk about him. I'm going to guess that you might be talking to us about that LSU game, because
yeah,
when if you watch that game live like I did, it was like, man, who is this running back that's just taking over right now? Like, when I say a running back took, like, his game against LSU might be better than any other running back's performance in a game this year that we have on this list. Like, he legitimately took over that game.
Do you want the numbers right now?
Yeah, just hit us with it, because it was that impressive, and there'll be some film from that game, so you might as well hit us with it right now.
Yeah, so they won 38-23. He had 38 attempts, 215 yards, and then 2 touchdowns with a long of 29.
I mean, 38 attempts alone lets you know he was balling.
Insane.
And he was playing on a bum ankle in that game and took 38 carries. Like, I just love that the attitude, like, just tough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the first thing you notice, the first thing that pops on his film is just his ability to make people miss. He's very elusive. Um, he's got like the little jump cut, little double crossover, the hezzy, stiff arm, like all those things are in his bag. In
Yeah.
terms of like moves that you see him pull on film, for real, he has all of that, bro. He's super elusive. So we'll go through a couple here. Like this is one of those clips against LSU. Here you go. He's got the little hezzy cutback, score, right?
Hmm.
And then you see him again. Here it is. He's got the stiff arm, little cutback, score, right?
Yeah.
You see, I think he's got another one on here. Yep, there it is. A little, oop, yep, score. That stiff arm again, right here, score. So like you see examples of all of it on film, like his just ability to make people miss tackles, and get all I mean, this one again, he's like a big play waiting to happen because his just ability to make people miss in so many different ways. Again, you saw the hesitation, you saw the jump cut, you saw the little double crossover, you saw the stiff arm, like all that stuff was in this film in just a few clips. And I
Mhm.
think it's part of what makes him such an interesting back in this draft because that's a thing that you can't really coach. Guys have that or they really don't. And he has it. He has that elusiveness. The next thing I noticed is he's just really good at cutting off of blocks. Like where Tank is great at creasing it and seeing the you know the
Lane.
hole in the zone, right? A-Chain was great when they ran ISO, power, counter, lead, anything where it was he has a lead blocker leading him through a hole and he can just cut off that blocker
Mhm.
and reading where they put the defender and just cut off that. He was really good at that. Here's a couple clips of that. Like this is going to be ISO against South Carolina in a fourth and short. He's just going to follow his fullback and cut off that block and score. There's another one here. It'll come up in a second. Of him against who is this?
Texas, it looks like. I don't know.
Yeah,
Arkansas?
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Same thing where he's following the puller, gets around. Right, we'll let it go again. ISO, cut off that block, score, and then again against Arkansas here. You'll see it in a sec. He's following. It's just lead with the split back, and he's going to follow the back here. And again, like this guy leads him through the hole. He finds the cutback lane because that's where his blocker took him. And again, he cuts off that block again, one more cut, and he scores. Like his jump cut is really, really impressive, man. He's really quick with that thing. And it allows him to be so good cutting off of blocks because he can just find it, cut, and then he has the elusiveness at the end of a play to make the next guy miss too. The last thing, straight up elite speed on film. He proved it at the combine. Joe, talk to the
Yeah.
people about his combine numbers.
Yeah. So his 40 was 4.32. He was the fastest guy, I believe, out of everyone. Because he had a vert of 33 inches, and then he didn't do the broad jump, so I don't have that number.
That 4.32 though,
Yeah. Crazy.
that's fast. Like that's fast, dude. Um, Here's a couple clips. This is against Alabama 2 years ago.
Yeah,
September of
yeah.
2021. Yeah. And he is gone. Straight gone. And this is not like Southern Miss. This is no offense to Southern Miss. This is Alabama. Like we got 5-star speedy dudes on this thing. Same thing. This is Tennessee, right? They are not going to catch him either. He is fast, electric fast, dude. And he gets in the open field, no one is catching him. He is gone. He's going to outrun dudes who have angles on him. I just thought his speed really popped on film. It was not just like 4.32 track short speed. It was legitimate. Like his speed shows up on film.
Yeah.
I think he is legitimately fast. I believe the fastest running back in the draft, correct, Joe?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fastest.
So
The next guy closest one was Jahmyr Gibbs at 4.36. So I mean,
yeah,
0.04 faster.
yeah. When I was watching him, there are a couple guys that came to mind, but the one who was most pertinent in my head was Lamar Miller. Don't know if you remember Lamar Miller a couple years ago. Um, not a couple years ago. It's been a little while since Lamar Miller was
Oh,
playing,
okay. Yeah. I do.
but played for the Dolphins and the Texans, I believe, at one point. This is just a clip of him. Again, same thing. You see the elusiveness, the cutting off the block, and then the speed in the open field to just he's electric fast, dude. Like
God, Jesus.
that's yeah, like that's what Achane looks like to me, where it's just a similar build, kind of shorter guy,
Yeah.
compact but strong, not skinny, but got that real true like nice jump cut, game breaking speed. Another guy I had in mind was Chris Johnson, but he's not quite
Oh,
as
okay.
electric as CJ2K.
CJ2K.
So
Yeah.
that would have been a lofty one, you know. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
set my man up for failure on that, but like Lamar Miller was extremely fast as well. So those were a couple guys that I had in my head when I was watching him. Joe, who are you thinking he looked like?
Yeah, so for me, my notes when you were talking about his elusiveness and I started laughing, I thought it was funny because I was like, I didn't see him do like anything too crazy, right? Like it wasn't
Mhm.
like he was out there like hitting, I don't know, like double jukes and then cutting out. So like for me, my notes say he wasn't like the flashiest dude out there, but he likes to run just vertical. You know what I mean? Like he's just
Mhm.
going up the gut. And for me, I don't know. I had one that I wrote down. The other one I was iffy on. I'll just say that one first. It was CJ Spiller. I don't really remember how he played, but to me,
Yeah,
it was
CJ.
like
Yeah, I see it.
I was like, I don't know. That came to my mind. Don't remember his gameplay, but that's who came. And then I wrote down Nick Chubb, just like
Hmm.
a little bit more like power and just like I'm gonna just get to where I'm going. Doesn't like I don't know. I would say the Achane's probably faster for sure, but
Achane's faster. Chubb's a little beefier.
yeah. But I would just
Yeah.
like I don't know, just the way he was running with the ball, just it looked like Nick Chubb to me.
Yeah, I got you. When you look at what he can do for a team, I think his speed, his elusiveness, those are valuable assets to an offense in any scheme. I think the team that drafts him should be prepared to give him touches in space so he can show off that
Mm,
speed. So that's like, hey, get him the ball on screen, throw, swing routes to him, let him run toss, let him run a little bit of power and counter, where he can use that ability to cut off blocks. And I think whether he's the lead back or part of a committee, I think he gives you that receiving threat, right?
yeah, that's for sure.
Um, 550 yards receiving in those 5 receiving touchdowns. We saw a clip of him out of the backfield make a catch and score. So he can certainly give you a little bit of that. There's a couple other guys in this draft that maybe give you more of that, but he can give
Oh
that
yeah.
to you. And so I think he's really well rounded, does a lot of things, but his speed is what's game changing. His speed is what's gonna be what is attractive for the team drafting him. So right now, you look at it, he's projected between rounds 2 and round 4. Um, Kind of similar range to Tank Bigsby. I think either one of those guys could go before or after each other, just based on scheme fit and how a team that runs the scheme that they fit in values them, and where they feel like they need to get them in order to get them. But a couple teams here that we're looking at him. The Eagles could be interesting.
Yeah.
The Bengals, with Joe Mixon, I don't know what's going on with him. The Bengals may be in the market for a running back, and even if
Yeah.
not, he kind of mirrors some things that Joe Mixon can do, so he might be a good backup, and he can do some of those same things. The Vikings, again, not sure what's going to happen. There's a
With
lot of
Dalvin Cook.
yeah, there's a lot of feels like there might be a lot of running back movement in the league right now.
Oh
You had
yeah, that's for sure.
Eckler requesting to seek a trade. Dalvin Cook
I didn't
maybe.
know that one.
Um, Yeah, that just happened. Like,
Oh,
legitimately
okay,
just happened.
okay.
So, the funny part is a lot of these teams that I talked about looking at, like, hey, they might want, need a running back, or they may be looking at this guy, he fits here. It's weird because after I did all that work is when some of these things came out where it's like Dalvin Cook may be traded, Austin
Yeah.
Eckler may be traded. You'll see the Chargers come up here later. That was before those things happened. So, there's still some teams, that could be looking, their interest could peak even more than what we've got right now. And then the last team I've got down here, the Cardinals. Any of those teams stand out to you, Joe?
Yeah, well, you mentioned it already about Dalvin Cook possibly moving on in next year. So that crossed my mind, the Vikings. And then also the Cardinals, because I know they got rid of one of their duo backs last year. I think he ended up in Miami. And
Hmm.
then who they got? Connor right now? That's who they kept?
Yeah, James Conner.
Yeah, same thing. He's probably looking at getting a new deal here soon, if anything. But if not, it's an easy swap of money right here and to pick up the rookie.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see what team drafts him. Very interesting. Again, these are like we're talking about our top 5 running backs, and a couple guys in that top 5 could go in round as late as round 4 based on mock
Yeah.
draft projections. People are all over the place on these guys, so we'll see. Kind of what happens with them. But who we have next, Joe?
I mean, you got the flag right there sent from my guy Mitch. So we're looking at the man, the myth, Bijan Robinson, bro, out of Texas. My dude sits at 6'2", 222, a little beefy right there. But he's got 3 years. He's a junior as well. They're all juniors, I should say. I don't know if I didn't mention that already. He's got 31 games, rushed for 3,411 yards. He's got 33 rushing touchdowns, a 6.3 average per carry. He's got 805 receiving yards and 8 receiving touchdowns.
So Bijan is an absolute beast, bro. Bijan is my favorite running back in the draft. He does everything.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that separates him. He does everything better than basically everyone else in the draft does their thing. Like,
Yeah.
everyone kind of has a thing. I talk about Tank is very well rounded. He's a good back. He's going to be a really good player. A-Chain does everything really well. He's a good back. His speed is what separates him, right? Bijan does all of those things and does them all like extremely well. When you watch him, I mean, the first thing you see, physical running style. He's like you said, 222. He's beefy. He's a big beefy guy. He runs tough, and he's really hard to tackle. Guys, people say that all the time. He runs behind his pads. It's kind of an old school thing. Like, he's not afraid to go through tacklers by dipping that near shoulder. He
Yeah.
runs behind his pads. I remember being in like Pop Warner football and hearing that all the time, like, run behind your pads, and you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
You
hey,
said
this
that. I
guy.
didn't even know what that meant.
It's like this guy puts that shoulder pad through your chest and runs right through you.
Yeah.
Here's a game of him this year against I think this was UTEP, if I'm not mistaken, but like just boof,
Yeah.
boof, boof. Like, he's just
That's
breaking
like,
tackles. They cannot tackle him, dude.
this isn't
He
my
is,
comp, but that was like, you could say kind of similar to Marshawn, just didn't fall the whole time and bumping over everyone.
yeah, yeah, kind of. Hey, I low key kind of like that, Marshawn, huh? But like, I don't know. I just want to play that one more time. Like, he legitimately. That's what I'm talking about. Running behind your pads, he runs through dudes, man. He is a tough guy to tackle. It's really fun from this angle too, from the
Yeah.
behind angle where number 10
Yeah. He
just gets
almost falls and
smoked,
just keeps going. It's crazy.
and then takes out another guy because he put him on the ground. So that's one thing you love that from a running back, right? Because that will translate. That's how he runs. That's how he
Yeah.
plays. That's the kind of thing that energizes a football team. You know, um, in the pass game, that's another strength for him. I think this is where he separates himself from everyone else because he adds this other dimension compared to the most of the backs coming out, in that he was adequate in pass protection for a college back, and this is usually the thing that college backs struggle with, right? is pass pro coming into the league. He was pretty good at it in college, so I'm gonna say it's gonna translate for him being adequate even initially, as well as he could catch the ball out of the backfield. He showcased that too, right? So there's a couple plays. These may be some of the more boring clips, at least not the pass catching stuff, but the pass pro stuff at the end. You know, I'll show you a couple clips of it. Won't bore you too much, but like, okay, here's a great one of him just running the
Just
wheel
a
out of the
little wheel,
backfield.
yeah.
Touchdown. No one covered him, right? He catches it. Here's a pass pro, right?
Pass pro,
He's
yeah.
patient. He's patient. He goes and finds the guys. Here he goes. He chips Will Anderson, who we will be talking about very soon. That guy was one of the best pass rushers in college football. We'll play it one more time, right? He can do this out of the backfield and go catch the ball, but then he can also show you like I can pass pro legitimately, right? I'm patient. The problem a lot of backs have here is they're going to go chase and get beat. Now he's patient. He gets his hands on the guy, keeps the pocket clean for Quinn Ewers, right? And this ends up being a big time completion against Alabama. And then the other part of it is like, can you chip? Can you provide
Yeah, I was
help?
gonna say to fill the hole.
Yeah, right here. See, he's going to go chip on Will Anderson, does a really good job, and then release. Little chip and release. And again, big play. So he did things as a running back that don't always show up in the stat sheet that helped his team win football games. Now I know they didn't go beat Alabama here, but
Uh-oh. What happened to my guy? He got booted. Oh, there you are. What happened, bro?
What happened?
I don't know.
Dude, and then I looked and I was like, where did he go?
Yeah, it just said you hung up or something, bro. The video cut out, and then it was just me and myself.
Oh, so the last thing that you see when you watch Bijan is I call it lateral suddenness, right? It's not even like quickness. It's like he's here, and then he's here. You ever watch X-Men and there's the dude who can like poof and he teleports somewhere else?
That's actually one series I've never watched, but the way you described it was hilarious.
That's literally like
Poof.
that's like what Bijan Robinson looks like sometimes. Like he's here and then he's just jump cut like teleports over here.
Uh-huh.
Like half of his highlights are just some combination of jump cuts, lateral sidestep, shoulder turning quick cut, and then he's just able to get back vertical
Yep.
quicker than anyone in the draft. Like you just never know when it's coming. He's just ha ha and he's gone. That's like when I say suddenness, like that's what I mean. It's not even quickness. It is quick, but it just you never know when it's coming. It's sudden. I can go, dude, we got clips for days of this. Here he is against Kansas. Bop, bop, bop. Oh, oh, it's so dirty, man. Like the way he just like jump cuts his way to daylight and then he's gone. Same thing here. Ha. Oh, you see that? See,
Yeah.
it's like he's teleporting from one
And then
spot to another.
he's just
and
gone.
then he's
Outruns
gone.
everyone.
Yes, it's incredible. Same thing here. God,
K-State.
God, yeah. He just and from the behind angle, it's so dirty, right? You can see it from his view.
Yeah.
Bop. Oh, you see how
Yeah,
he cuts it? He like
follow
hits
the
it and then
blocker
hits it
real quick.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he makes that guy dive at him, and that guy thinks like off the initial jump cut, he's gonna be able to hit him, and then he jump cuts again. Again, it's like he's teleporting from place to place. It's incredible. His lateral suddenness and ability to then get vertical. It's very impressive. It's it reminded me a lot of Ezekiel Elliott watching him, like all of it.
Uh-huh.
His from his physical running style to the way he is in pass protection, being able to catch the ball, that lateral suddenness, like a lot of it being that kind of bigger, beefier back with great feet, great hands, but also like that jump cut. Zeke, that was early Zeke, young Zeke, that was what made him special, man, is that he was so big and so tough to tackle, but he could get lateral so quick. And then he brought all that extra value in the pass game. Like I went back and watched early young Zeke. Like this is 2016 Zeke against the Eagles, right? Boom. That just lateral and then still being able to finish a play, run behind his pads. Here he is adding in the pass
The
game.
wheel.
Again, being able to like that, all that, man. Yeah. it looks very. He and Bijan look very similar to me in the way that they play, their physical stature, all of it.
Yeah.
Is it instantly who I thought of was Ezekiel Elliott, who was a top 5 pick, and I really think Bijan has that kind of potential in this draft. Joe, what did he test at the combine? What were some stuff that you saw?
Yeah, so he had a 4.46 on the 40 time. He had a 37-inch vert and a broad jump of 10.4. And that's all while weighing 225.
Yeah, super impressive, dude. What was the game that you looked at for him?
So it was that Kansas game that we seen a little bit from earlier.
Yeah.
They won 55-14. He had 25 attempts rushing, 243 yards, which is an average of 9.7 yards a carry, and 4 touchdowns with a long of 32. The man was eating out there.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Zeke.
That's
Um,
comedy.
for
No,
those who are
it
listening,
it
for
see, I
those who
had
are listening,
basically the same thing you said that you're talking about with Zeke, with the power, speed, the ability to
mhm.
make quick cuts. But the guy I went with was Le'Veon Bell. I
Ooh,
like
yep.
like I just remember him being in the backfield making a cut and maybe another one and then just gone in the hole.
Hmm.
The hole that came out of nowhere and he just
I
out.
think that's I think that's a pretty good comp. Yeah, I like Le'Veon Bell for him. It's good.
Well, I know you
Um,
like him as well later on,
yeah, I do,
which is
I
what I
do,
thought was funny. But
I do, I do, and we'll talk about that when we get there.
yeah,
Cross that bridge when we get there. So when you look at like what Bijan brings to an offense, I mean, he should be clearly drafted to be a team's lead back. He can do everything. The lateral cutting ability to run zone, the toughness to run power counter, the ability to play on third down and add value that way. I think any team in their right mind should want to draft this guy. When you see him in mocks, he's going as high as the 6th overall pick.
that's
Teams
crazy.
like the Lions, he does seem to fit that Dan Campbell style, that Dan Campbell mold. I wouldn't be shocked if they drafted him. I mean, they have a lot of other needs or things that they could do, but you know, it wouldn't be bad in that offense to have Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
You got the Eagles, we've mentioned them. They have, that 10th pick. You got the
Mhm.
Buccaneers who really could use a real, a lead running back with Leonard
That's where
Fournette.
I've been seeing him in the mock.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette out the door. And now, again, I put the Chargers on here before the Austin Eckler news. Now it feels even more necessary, right? I mean,
Yeah,
all of those
that makes
teams
a lot of sense.
plus many more would would be feeling really good about themselves on draft night, I think, if they drafted this guy. Because despite him playing running back and people not feeling like that's valuable, this guy is for sure worth a first round pick. I would, if I was a team, I would take him in the top 10 and not hesitate. I think he's that good. He brings so many different things to the table. Yeah, he's a dog, man. I just think he's a really, really good football player. Joe, any of those teams stand out to you as a team that, I know you said something about the Buccaneers. Maybe you like to see
Yeah,
him with them.
I would assume that. I mean, that's where I've seen him in the mock. It makes the most sense, like you said. Leonard Fournette's gone. They uh they had some troubles in the backfield as well. Chargers, as you mentioned earlier, with Austin Eckler demanding that trade, that's pretty wild. They could use that, and that just opens up like their actual receivers too. If they were to play him in the backfield, like you could spread him out, do the same things that you pretty much were already doing with Austin Eckler. Lions, I mean, as much as I'd like to see the man go that early, I think they need to focus more defensively. Just they didn't do too well last year there, and I think
Yeah.
the Eagles have too many backs already. I don't know how long they're all under contract, but they were running like 2 or 3 last year the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen him mock to the Eagles a bunch, and I don't know if that's just an indictment. I mean, Miles Sanders was a Pro Bowler, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know if that's just the thought is Miles Sanders isn't going to be there for long. He's not going to end up doing a long term deal or what.
true.
But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not sure. I think the Buccaneers and Chargers, either one of those teams would be awesome for him. I mean,
Yeah,
for him to go to the Chargers with Herbert and what they've got offensively would be sick.
insane.
Um,
Yeah, I just want to give you his quick 2022 numbers. We could spare the other ones. This dude had 258 attempts,
Mm-hmm.
15, almost 1,600 yards. He had 1580, 6.1 average, and then 18 touchdowns just last year alone.
Stupid numbers, bro.
Yeah.
Stupid. 18 touchdowns in 1 year is pretty impressive. Like it's more than half his touchdowns in one season. Okay, golly. Who we got next?
We got Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. This guy's 5'11", 200 pounds. He transferred in. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So he played 2 years in Georgia Tech.
Georgia
Is that what
Tech,
that is?
Yeah.
He's got 31 games over the 3 years. We got 2,150 yards rushing with 15 touchdowns, 5.6 on his yards per carry, and 1,200 receiving yards with 8 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah. Okay, Gibbs. So, dude, Jahmyr Gibbs he's special. I love Bijan, but there was like a moment. It wasn't very long, but there was a moment where I fell in love with Jahmyr Gibbs like heavy, and then I kind of came back to earth and was like, dude, Bijan's the dude. But
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs is really good. He's a close second. He does like his ability to be a receiver out of the backfield. Some of the best coming out of college that I've seen, like in my lifetime. Like he legitimately is an elite receiver out of the backfield. He's one of the better receiving backs in the class. The last guy we'll talk about today is a really good receiving back too, but Jahmyr is probably the best one in the class, and he adds this dimension because he's so great in his route running. Like his feet, he runs routes like a receiver. It's so rare to see that. And we'll watch a clip here. This is him this year against K-State in the bowl game. He's playing out here in the slot and the empty. Him and Bryce Young were just a cheat code, dude. He runs the little, dude, look at this guy. He left him by himself.
Hit the dig real quick.
Oh, dude, gone. Like electric ball player, bro. Electric. He's a big play waiting to happen. We got to watch the route again, though. Look at his feet. Bump, bump, bump. He just freezes the defender, throws the
he
hand
didn't know
up,
where to go.
throws the hand up like he's a receiver on the go route, and really he's running it under. It's dude, because he knew he's like, dude, I've got this guy so beat right now. I froze this guy. It's like, dude, he's really good that way. The other thing that you see, and you may have even seen it on that play, the electric speed quickness combination. Like some guys are physically fast and some guys accelerate to top end speed fast. It just so happens that Gibbs is the nightmare combo of both for defenses anyway. For offenses, it's a thing of beauty. But you see it here. His ability to like find it and then just hit it. Like he's
Crazy.
so quick
I remember watching
and
that
then
one.
fast. He's quick to top end speed and then fast once he gets there. Again, like this, he's slow playing it, and then once he hits it, dude. That's against Auburn. Those are not slouches out there. Those are not slow guys, but he makes them look slow because of how fast and quick he is. And then you saw it right there on that play. Again, all of the stuff he's good at, they all translate, bleed into one play to the next. But his patience and vision, like you saw it on that play. He's fantastic at waiting for the crease until the last minute, making that one cut and hitting it vertical with speed. Very much like Tank, right? That patience and vision where he can crease it good, really good zone back because he'll wait for it to open. He's very, very patient. So here's a couple more clips of that with that top end speed too. Same thing, cuts it all the way back. And once he hits it, this is against Arkansas this year when they did not have Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs took over, won them that football game. You can see it, right? That hole was not open until very late.
Yeah.
He kept his feet moving and waited for it. Same thing here on the power. Same thing. Once he sees it, though, gone. Like the patience and vision to let it happen. And then, dude, that guy had the angle on him too, and he outran him. Here's another great one. Whew. Again, against A&M this year. Let it open.
Outran the lead block.
Yep. Yep.
He
And
didn't
then
let it develop.
just
I mean, there's no choice. You're too fast.
yeah, yeah. What again, I just want to let this thing play again and
Yeah.
wash over you. He's very patient. He has great vision, and then he has that electric acceleration and top end speed to hit that hole once he does see it open. And it's no different in the receiving game. This is why this guy is just he's a big play waiting to happen. I mean, he had these 2 touchdowns against Arkansas in back-to-back possessions. He took that game over. And again, he just keeps his feet moving. He may move slower to let the hole develop, but once he sees it, this guy's gone. Very much so to me, the receiving ability and the patient running style, very much so reminded me of Le'Veon Bell. I know you just used Le'Veon Bell as
Yeah.
your comp, but very much so like Le'Veon Bell-esque to me, and that like patience to then see it, and then once he sees it. Now, I think Jameer, where he's a little different, I think he's actually faster than Le'Veon Bell
Oh,
was.
definitely.
And Le'Veon's maybe a little bigger, but in terms of like the thing that made Le'Veon so good too was, remember, he could run those routes like he was a receiver.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so very similar, like Gibbs, and I think I saw a lot of people talking about Gibbs as Alvin Kamara.
Oh, okay,
That's
that makes sense.
probably that's probably like the similar like quickness, acceleration, and speed
Yeah.
combo with the receiving ability, and that's true. Like, and I really could have comped him to Alvin Kamara very easily. What made me go with Le'Veon though was that patient running style.
Yeah,
That like
that makes sense.
willingness to just wait and wait and wait and let it open and then hit it. And when you hit it,
Mm.
you've got all the tools to hit it big. That kind of home run hitter. That's where he's so like Le'Veon, and then the receiving ability. But yeah, you could easily tell me Alvin Kamara, and I will agree with you. Anything that you saw, Joe, in terms of games that you saw on film or the combine numbers that jumped out to you?
Yeah, so we talked about his speed already, but his 40 was 4.36, came
Yeah,
second to our guy,
A
Bigsby,
Chain.
or A-Chain, yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
He had a vert of 33.5, and then he didn't do the broad jump.
Okay.
My notes for him was that he's obviously very fast. He's got good hands. We've seen him go crazy with the receiving yards. And then I said he's good in open space. So like once he's gone, there's no catching him, and two, if he's like it's got the one last guy to make him miss, like I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
My standout game for him was against LSU. They lost in overtime, 32-31,
Mhm.
but he had 15 rushing attempts with 99 yards, 6.6 average on there, but he had 8 catches, 64 yards with the 8 average on that.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
showing that he could do both in that game, even
Yeah.
come up short, but
Yeah. I would say that the LSU game, he was really good. The game for sure for me last year that where I knew he was going to be a big factor in this draft was that Arkansas game when they didn't have Bryce, and he took on back-to-back possessions took those 2 to the house that we watched.
uh-huh.
Um, yeah, he does a lot of the things that you want. I mean, worst case scenario for him, he's going to come in and instantly give an offense one of the better receiving backs in the league.
Yeah.
Like, that's worst case. That's who he is. He's going to be so good as a receiver out of the backfield, or a guy that you can line up. You have 10 personnel or 11 personnel on the field, but then you can go empty. And now he's a matchup nightmare for safeties and linebackers. Like, you better put a slot corner on him, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, he runs routes like a receiver. He catches the ball well. His patience and vision can make him potentially an every down back. Like I said, that's why I comped him to Le'Veon Bell, very similar Alvin Kamara. I think he could be, the situation Alvin Kamara was drafted in with the Saints.
Yeah.
That's an ideal spot for Gibbs, something like
Mhm.
that, where he can be a part of a 2-man committee, not have to do the tough stuff right away, but do everything else. Right now, he's a late first rounder to for sure drafted in the second round based on everything we're seeing. Um, Seen some people talk again. The Eagles coming up again. The Chiefs, that would just be with what they got out of Pacheco this year.
Yeah,
We
insane.
everyone knows this podcast is a big Pacheco fan. This is a Pacheco fan podcast.
Yeah,
So I
that's for
really
sure.
don't want to see touches taken away from him. But if you put Jahmyr Gibbs with Pacheco,
That's just that is way too dynamic.
yeah. Um, the Saints, if they're potentially looking to get out of the Alvin Kamara contract, maybe move on, that
Uh-huh.
hasn't been anything reported. But he got in trouble last offseason, some stuff there. I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe they're looking to get younger, find the cheaper version, all that.
yeah.
Teams are always
A
positioning
business
themselves
end of
that
the
way.
day.
Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Saints maybe look at that. And then again, the Bengals is another team that, we don't know what's going on with Joe Mixon. So,
Mhm.
and even if that, he would be I just feel like a great addition with what they've got going on there with Joe Burrow. So, any of those teams stand out to you, Joe?
I think the Bengals would actually be a very interesting one. Use him more as like a Samaji type because he was doing more of the like third down stuff with like the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs would be insane. We already talked about it briefly, but they could literally run empty and have two running backs on the field for all they care.
Yeah.
The Saints makes a lot of sense. That's how they were using Kamara for the most part. You mentioned it briefly. He had the off-field stuff, but also I feel like he just was very limited last year in terms of just like his play time in general. So he could definitely fill that void for them. I think though the Saints or Bengals would probably be my two guesses. He ends up going out of the four. My comp for him was more based off his like receiving skill. I went with Christian McCaffrey
Mm,
just because the
yeah,
dynamic of being
that's a
able to
great
run the
one.
ball and catch is like elite.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. I didn't even think of McCaffrey, but that's a really good one, dude. Like those it's this new generation of running backs, Le'Veon,
Mm,
McCaffrey, Kamara, that like dudes who are so good as receivers and running backs.
yeah.
They're so valuable, man. Yeah, I think Gibbs falls right in line with those guys. I mean, when you put him with those names, all those guys were so good. That's where I was like, man, I love Gibbs. Like, part of me, part of
Yeah.
me thinks
You don't wanna
Gibbs
give him
has
that
that
high
like
praise early?
that staying power. I think
Yeah.
he's got that, and that's why I flirted. I
Uh-huh.
flirted, but didn't actually do it with him and Bijan.
Yeah.
Um, but another guy who I love, who we got.
So the last guy we're looking at today, we're looking at Deuce Vaughn. Now, I did not know this man's stature before I seen his tape. So when I seen him on the field, I was like, "Oh, whoa, this guy's tiny." So yeah, Deuce Vaughn, also known as Double Deuce, aka straight out of Hustle. He sits at 5'6", 176. He's 3 years down there at K State. He's got 37 games. This is impressive. 3,600 rushing yards, a little over that. 34 rushing touchdowns, also insane. 5.5 yards a carry, and then of course with the receiving game, he's got 1,280 yards receiving and 9 receiving touchdowns.
I just want to give my respect to this man. Straight up, can we just go through his production one more time because it's insane. It's insane numbers in 3 years of college. Just give me the production one more time, Joe. In 37 games, what were his numbers?
He's got 3,600 rushing yards, a little over, 34 rushing touchdowns, 1,280 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns. And if you want, I
Uh,
could break down the rushing per year.
bro, I hope people appreciate that this dude scored 43 touchdowns in 3 years of
Insane.
college football. 43 touchdowns. This guy was the most productive guy in this draft. Bar none. He's 5'6" might even be generous when you really look at him. This dude is tiny, and he scored the most touchdowns of any of these guys. Bro,
Crazy.
43 touchdowns is insane. I love this guy. I love this guy. Absolutely love him. He's quickly becoming like not one of my favorite in terms of like guy I would draft super high, but just like, like one of my favorite players in the draft. Like I love
Like
watching
root
him.
for? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I hope,
Has a great
where I
career.
dude, yes. Like I just think I hope the right team drafts him and uses him the right way because I think if they do, he's gonna surprise a lot of people. He's gonna be really, really good, dude. I love Deuce Vaughn. He's let's get to the film because I can glow about him all day, man. His first strength to me, his yak.
Yeah, no,
Just
that's for sure.
just like a lot like Gibbs, Vaughn, he's a really outstanding receiver out of the backfield. Smooth route runner, dangerous after the catch. Like dangerous, bro. We'll look at it
Like
here.
the sandwich?
The danger Russ, bro. Oh man. Did Russ dirty. So here's an example of that when I'm talking about the yak.
Oh yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah, right. Whop, whop. Dude, Chris
Where's
Berman needs to
Boom?
stick. Yeah, but he needs to stick around it to do the Deuce Vaughn plays because this guy is a classic. Like whap. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, bro! Look at all this. This is insane. This is his entire like highlight. His entire career highlights look like this. He's just so good after the catch because people can't find him. They can't
yeah.
tackle him. They
No,
can't get
for
him on the
real.
ground. Like you can throw him a screen pass. He's gonna make it
He's gonna
a
hide
big
behind
time
those
play.
linemen and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this was against who is this? I can't remember.
Texas
Texas
Tech?
Tech. Yeah, and he just makes all these dudes miss. Again, this one, Kansas, just miss, gone. Like, man, for such a little dude, he plays with so much heart and effort. I love it, man. The next thing that you see is his acceleration.
Yeah.
He can get to that top speed really fast. And when he gets those little legs rolling, bro, it's like burst to lightning speed. He's so fast and explosive. He's an explosive play waiting to happen at any moment. So here's that acceleration. This is against Alabama. So if you want to be like, he's in
They
the
don't
Big
play
12,
nobody. Yeah.
they don't play defense, whatever, yada yada yada, right? I'm ready to hear it all. Okay. You want something different? You want to see him take a carry in a zone running scheme against Alabama's defense, the Nick Saban defense. Okay, let's see it. Boom. Hits it, breaks an arm tackle, gone. Gone. They're not going to catch him.
Crazy.
Too fast. Too fast. Gone. Scores. Too fast. That burst to top end speed. And then I left the dude with the hammer in the shot for you, joke, just because I knew you would love it. Right? This Alabama fan with the hammer who's
Yeah.
just upset. Just upset because he's like, dude, this is K State. Well, I thought they weren't supposed to be able to do this. But again, I mean, you look at it, he hits that top end speed, and when he
90
hits it,
yards, bro.
he's running away from guys. He's running away from Alabama defenders. So anyone who's sitting there thinking like, he didn't do it against the SEC, yada yada yada, like I just don't think so. It's Big 12, they don't play defense. No, dude, he was doing this in the bowl game against Alabama. So I don't want to hear it. This guy is a dog, bro. And his ability to accelerate, it's impressive. And then the last thing is that elusiveness. You know, we talked about
Mhm.
this with A-Chain, but Deuce's film is even crazier because his small stature, it's really hard for people to find him.
Yeah.
And then, let alone when they do find him, it's hard for him to tackle him. Like he hides behind blockers, he can duck under defenders, burst to daylight, makes people miss in the open field. He has this little stop and start. Oh, it's gonna get me
Oh,
going
yeah, that
crazy
thing's
right now.
nasty.
Yeah, here we go. So here's another play. He kind of ducks under that first blocker, and then again makes a guy dive at his legs. Can't catch him. Scores. Right. This
Like
is the one. This is the one that's gonna. All right. I just need people to prepare themselves mentally for what you're about to see. So it's Deuce on about the 14-yard line. You got a safety running up on him, right? Haha. Oh, he's got that little hezzy cut one, cut two. Bro, watch it from the behind. It's so dirty. Let me hit you with a. Nope, I'm coming back. Oh, this dude, he broke dude's ankles. Now this is him against LSU. Again, oh, he didn't do it against real teams. Here it is. This is him against LSU, making them look crazy too. So this guy could have played in any league in America and done what he did. He was a dog, bro. Makes people miss. Makes the
Yeah.
LSU safety miss, bro. Okay, and then this one might be my favorite. Doink. He makes these two these two Nevada defenders legitimately run into each other by ducking under them after the throw. You may find Deuce, but it's going to be really hard to tackle him when you do. So, of course, first guy that comes to mind, Joe. Who we gonna compare him to?
Yeah, Darren Sproles. easiest man that you could think of. He literally did this in the NFL. Probably very similar stature while we're at it. Easiest answer of all time.
Dude, easiest comp I've ever made. It's
Yeah.
not even, it's like, it's Darren Sproles and there's no one else. I mean, like Sproles, great at the route running, same thing, great with the yak. This is like 32-year-old Sproles too. This is
Yeah.
with those little legs, boop, boop, boop. Whop,
Post Chargers
whop,
era.
whop. Oh, bro, Sproles, such a dog. And I love Sproles for all the same reasons that I love Deuce Vaughn. And if you're like, well, does this work? It's like, dude, Darren Sproles had a 15-year NFL career.
Yeah.
He had a 15-year career. He played forever. His game translated. And all of the things that he did aged well. I think Deuce is going to be the same way. I think Deuce comes in. He plays a very similar role to the thing that made Darren Sproles a 15-year pro. He's a dynamic third down back. He can be a returner and just an overall offensive weapon. I think while he may not be that every down back necessarily, what he does is so explosive. He does his thing better than anyone else does their thing in this draft. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. No,
there
for
may be a
sure.
couple backs who are more well-rounded than him, but what he does is so impressive. I would not hesitate to draft this guy. Joe, did you what stood out from his numbers to you, or what game did you see that you really loved with him?
Yeah, here I'll give you his last year's number and then I'll give you my game that stood out to me. So last year he had 293 rushing attempts. Let's see, 1,558 yards, 5.3 on that average, 9 touchdowns. But just the fact, if you look at his size and the numbers, it's crazy the amount of production they're getting out of this guy. The one game that stood out to me was against TCU. They won in overtime. He had 26 attempts, 130 yards, average of 5 yards right there, and then 1 touchdown. And it was crazy while watching him. I had like a brief moment where I was like, dude, this guy looks like someone else that we seen a while ago. He's playing the Broncos. His name was Trendon Holiday. I was like, this dude,
Yeah.
he used to be a returner, and instantly it just crossed my mind all of a sudden. But I had Darren Sproles written down, and when you mentioned him on the last dude, Alvin Kamara crossed my mind, but I didn't really see too much of it. It was just like just the
Smaller.
stat. Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing that was the real comparison for me.
Yeah. If you look at mocks right now, this guy is not going any higher than round 4. And it's his stature. I get it. It's the fact that people don't project him as being every down back. My thought process on this is no one is an every down back anymore. It's like I said, 90% of the league, they're not playing with every down backs. If you don't have a guy named Derrick Henry and even, Derrick Henry may not be that guy anymore, or like Saquon Barkley, if you don't have Christian McCaffrey, if you don't have one of those like top 5 or 6 running backs in the league at this point, you probably don't have an every down running back. You're playing with a committee anyway. So I don't know why we would downgrade this guy based on that. Considering the thing he does, he's so explosive at it. He brings a lot of value because he can also be that returner. You don't have to just use him as a third down back. You can line him up in the slot and just get him the ball in space and let him work. So he's being drafted in somewhere between rounds 4 and round 6 right now in a lot of the mocks. Darren Sproles, I believe, was a 4th round pick, if I'm remembering right. So it's about, same spot. But like, if you told me, I think if teams knew before Darren Sproles was drafted that he was going to have a 15-year career and do what he did,
That'd be
probably goes higher than round 4. So with that hindsight and me feeling like so confident Deuce is Darren Sproles, I just think he should be drafted higher than that. And, obviously I'm probably tipping my hand in terms of how my rankings are going to end up looking here. But some teams that, could potentially be a fit for him. The Cardinals, we've mentioned them a couple times. The Titans, wouldn't that be a fun backfield where you'd have Derrick Henry at
the
whatever
big
he is,
dude.
6'4", and Deuce Vaughn at like 5'6"? That would be so fun.
Yeah.
I want to see that just for the aesthetic of it, just for the viewing pleasure.
Just
It would be
side
so.
by side.
Could you imagine playing defense and you're like downs 1 and 2? It's like, oh, we got to tackle Derrick Henry. He's a load, man. Golly, and you're just getting pounded on, and then it's like third down and you're a backer and all of a sudden they go empty and Deuce Vaughn's in the slot, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to cover this guy on the on
Yeah.
the little slant route, and now all of a sudden I'm getting shift teams by Deuce Vaughn. Like, oh my gosh, that would be terrible. Another team, that currently has a back they play on every down, but has had some injury stuff, and maybe they could
Yeah.
take some off of him. The Steelers, with Najee, maybe let Deuce Vaughn take a little bit off of Najee, and then the Buccaneers, another team that showed up in terms of teams that might be interested in him. Any of those teams stand out to you, Joe?
I think the Steelers would be a very good one. You mentioned it. Najee has had some injury problems, and I don't know, just that the colors alone with him being out there would be sick. I don't know,
Yeah.
kind of dumb, but
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
yeah. And the Titans is a interesting one. I mean, it'd be funny to see him line up next to Derrick Henry in a picture, just to see the size difference. But no, Titans. There's been some whispers about them shipping out our guy Derrick Henry, so we'll
Ooh.
see. We'll see. They
Okay.
could be
Okay.
looking for a back for sure.
All right. So we've kind of come to the end here. I mean, this is all pointless unless we're doing some rankings. So Joe, let's get to it. Who you got? 1 through 5. What you got?
So first off, it seems like the very obvious one. We got our guy Bijan Robinson.
Mm.
Out of the people we looked at, he's the complete back to me. You kind of mentioned it. I think low key Saquon could be another comp we
Mm.
can go with.
Mm.
Just very sizable dude, definitely going to
Yeah.
translate. Jahmyr Gibbs, very close second. I like what he does out the backfield in terms of catching the ball. Going down to third, I got Tank Bigsby. Let me remember which order we're looking at these. Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like this one's more of a very similar to how I feel about Derrick Henry, where it's like you need to use him in a specific way in order to get him to that full speed, have him running downhill on people.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 and 5, I only knocked Deuce Vaughn because his size. Obviously, I looked at the numbers, very productive for what he was doing. And then A-Chain, I just feel like he's my biggest question mark out of everyone. He could still do it. Like, obviously, he's here for a reason. But I just felt like I need to see more out of him in order for me to move him up on my list.
Okay. Okay. These are what my 5 look like. I've got Bijan, like you said, he's the most complete back in the draft. He's the closest thing to, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon young Zeke, Saquon, that truly like every down, this is the dude that we lean on, kind of back. At second, I explained why I flirted so much with Jahmyr Gibbs being there at first. I really, really kind of had to go back and forth. He made it tougher on me than I expected going in, just because every list you
Yeah.
see has Bijan 1, Jahmyr 2, but it's closer than I think people realize. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I think if you're getting him in round 2 versus having to draft Bijan at maybe number 11 or 12, but you get Jahmyr in round 2, I'm not mad at that. You're getting
Yeah.
great value. Jahmyr Gibbs is a dude, man. Like, obviously, the people on this pod, listening to this pod, may know I'm a Rams fan, grown up, born and raised, right? No, I'm Southern California. Love the
Yeah.
Rams. The Rams could get Jahmyr Gibbs at 36. You'll see a happy man sitting in front of you. Like, if that's and the Rams have a lot of other things they could and probably should draft. So if
Yeah.
you get Jahmyr Gibbs at 36, I'd be jumping for joy. I'd be feeling really good. At 3, I've got Deuce Vaughn. I don't care if he's 5'6", dude. Most productive guy in the draft. The thing he
Mhm.
does is valuable. He does his thing better than anybody else does their thing after Gibbs and Robinson. I just value what he does. And again, if Darren Sproles is the template and I'm drafting a guy that's going to play 15 years and be extremely productive, explosive, I think that's worthy of being the third best guy in this draft. I think that's worthy of a lot higher pick than maybe the 4th round, where people are thinking he's going to go. And I could be wrong here, and other people may like other guys, but I just think Deuce Vaughn is really good, dude. Number 4, Tank Bigsby. Love what he does at his side speed. his ability to kind of combine that size, speed, strength. He's good. Like I said, he's good at everything. I don't know that he's elite at any one thing, but he's good at everything. He'll do a lot
Yeah.
of stuff for you. And then lastly, Achane. I love Achane speed, his elusiveness. There's some other areas where he could help you some more, but I think, like you said, I do think that speed and elusiveness are certainly worthy of him being a top 5 back. And that LSU game, like I said, as much as I love all the guys above him, I think his game against LSU was the most dominant game, gutsy game by one single running back that I saw all year in college football. So for that reason, that's my top 5. A couple guys who just missed out. Roschon Johnson from Texas, the other Texas running back, as he is kind of getting known right now. He's really good too. Like, I hope people are not overlooking him just because he played on a team with Bijan Robinson. Really good football player. Kendre Miller from TCU, also another guy who does a lot really well. Zach Charbonnet from UCLA, tough, like power downhill back. And then Chase Brown from Illinois, another guy that we cannot forget. This is a fairly deep running back class. I would say that you can get really good value in those middle third, fourth, fifth rounds with some of these guys who are probably going to be available because teams don't draft running backs high. So I would not be mad if I was a team drafting any one of the guys, both in that top 5 and some of these honorable mentions. I think you're getting a good football player any way you go.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it'll be fun to watch these dudes. Granted, the value of them isn't reciprocated with where they go in the draft, but you'll see how these dudes perform. It'll be fun to watch these dudes grow in the NFL.
No doubt, dude. No doubt. Can we finally tell the people what we're doing next week?
Yeah, we could
I mean,
give them that
you
quick
made it.
preview.
Yeah, I mean, you've made it all the way to the end of this talk about running backs. We could kind of keep you hanging and let you find out next week, but we'll tell you. We'll tell you. We're gonna have a special 2-parter next week. We'll have 2 pods. We're gonna do the edge defenders. So we'll look at 3-4 outside linebackers, 4-3 defensive ends all together. So your edge guys, a lot of pass rushers. It'll be fun. And then we're going to look at some linebackers, some true off-ball linebackers.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike, Will, whatever you want to call them. True traditional linebackers. I mean, I'm excited for some guys, Joe. I'm going to tell you. I've already been starting. I'm excited. There's some guys in this. Yeah, there's some dudes in these groups. So we got that coming for you next week. But before we drop it to our guy Ray today, we gotta get the update, Joe.
Yeah,
we gotta get the update from last week. I gave you the banger of the week, The Last of Us.
Yep.
Tell me what your thoughts were.
So your boy did some recon on multiple things that you've thrown out to me on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first off, I seen the menu today in the morning. That was good. It was
yeah.
I sat there and was like, let's see what's going on. Yeah. It's crazy because like you talked about it too, where it's like everything's scripted right down to like the little key details. And the twist on me that I figured out was like that chick wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And so that alone was like a huge twist in the movie. But yeah, I liked it a lot. It was I kind of wish I was able to try some of the food. I also found it funny. When she was like, "Let me just get a cheeseburger," and it was the detail for cheeseburger is just like average American cheeseburger. I don't know why, but the like title they gave it was hilarious to me. Yeah, I like that movie a lot. Last of Us did that over the weekend. I banged out 8 of the shows. Finished the finale yesterday. Great. I don't know what else to say. It was there was a lot to leave out. The ending was definitely what's the word I'm looking for? Like ambiguous. Is that the word?
Yeah, ambiguous. Yeah.
It was. I think me and you agreed on what we thought about the ending. That our guy made the right choice. Not necessarily.
I'm not mad at him.
Yeah.
No spoilers here.
Yeah.
But But yeah, if you've seen The Last of Us, you know what we're talking about. So we'll keep it at that. Joe and I both agree. He did his thing. He did what he
Yeah.
needed to do.
And my guy's dog. He was out there. No, the craziest part was on the stairs for me because it was like, how'd the other dude just like fumble the bag that quick?
He did. He fumbled it right away, man. Fumbled it right away. No question. Oh man. I'm glad you liked it though. There's
Yeah, no, it was fun to watch.
I can keep giving these out then. That means
Yeah.
that my taste is pretty good. But banger of the week, it's your turn, bro. What you got?
Shoot, I didn't even realize you brought out The Last of Us last week, so that was gonna be mine. I was gonna hit you with the update, and then the
And
finale was
I think it counts. We can double down on The Last of
yeah,
Us. The finale was last night. So or 2 nights ago,
two
whatever it
nights, yeah,
was, Sunday
Sunday.
night. So all the people listening at home or watching, if you haven't seen The Last of Us,
It's a
it's
great
time.
watch.
Go watch it. HBO. All the episodes are on HBO Max now. Go watch them all. There's 9 episodes, about 45 minutes an episode. There's like 6 of the episodes are like all timers.
Yeah,
Honestly,
they're all
it's
good.
one of the best first seasons of TV. Like it's right up there with The Sopranos, The Wire, Succession, like all those season 1s of great TV shows. It's there. So we'll leave it at that. And Joe, you got to toss it to our guy.
Yeah, Ray, you're here with your boys, the running backs. Oh, speaking of Ray, he dropped a little EP, four songs. I
I have to
forget what
check
it's
that one out.
called, but yeah,
Check
Ray's
out our
taking us
boy,
out. Yeah,
Ray
check
Ray
out the new
Riley.
4 songs. Ray.